to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today, photographer Mike Van Tassell joins me. If you were at LuAnn Live last year, then you already know Mike. And I actually more specifically should say, if you were not at LuAnn Live last year and you were following me on Instagram in April and May of 2019, then Mike is the reason that you are having major FOMO. Yes, he captured this event so well that, listeners and followers on Instagram were emailing for me for weeks asking when we would be having the next LuAnn Live. So Mike is responsible for that. Now, of course, COVID-19 has squashed all ability to make concrete plans for us to be together in New Jersey. So I'm finally letting the cat out of the bag and saying we're working on a February 2021 timeline. So be sure to be on this specific email list if you want to be one of the first to be notified when I have the actual details. That would be go to LuAnnLive.com. LuAnnLive.com. All right. Now, Mike Van Tassell started his career as the art director and in-house photographer at Crestron. As you may know, Crestron is a home automation company whose products are pretty much found in upscale luxury homes. And part of his role at Crestron was to photograph these beautiful homes along with the commercial workplace environments all throughout the country. Soon he was promoted to creative director, but this meant that he was personally doing less of the actual photography, which was his first love. So he decided to go out on his own as an independent photographer. And I will say, designers and architects, especially the ones in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, have been the beneficiary of this move. No question. All right. Now, Mike takes great pride, as he should, in his ability to truly partner and collaborate with his clients as fellow artists with a vision for their work. I'm sure you will hear today the commitment and passion as Mike talks about his profession and how he works with you. He just really is all in, and it's really awesome to hear it and understand it. And of course, for me to have worked with him, to know it to be true. Now, another company who is committed and passionate about collaboration with fellow artists is J-Pour Living. J-Pour Living is both committed to the artisans who create their beautiful, handmade, one-of-a-kind rugs, and they are also committed to you, the interior designer, who specifies their quality area rugs for projects. Your customer service team in the trade division is at your disposal there, and combined with their robust website, this makes your job even easier to check stock, track deliveries, order custom sizes and colors. Whatever you need, they are there to help you. To set up your trade account today, go to jaipourliving.com/LuAnn. That's JAIPUR living.com/LuAnn. All right, let's hear Mike talk about photography, shall we? Hi, Mike. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, this is like a little long overdue, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It is. So you are a photographer here in New Jersey, and we met each other because you came to LuAnn Live last year, and you did all of the photography for the weekend. And Mike, I have to say, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is knowing the difference between average photography and excellent photography. And I have to say, I learned that with working with you last year on LuAnn Live. So I'm going to save that for when we get to that part of the interview, but I hadn't shared that with you and I wanted to tell you that. So,
thanks so much.
yes. But here's the thing. Another thing that I have learned about you is that you, like I was going to say suggest. It's not a suggestion. If you want to have a big girl, a big boy business, you must start with what is your mission? What is your vision? And we recently had Laurel Smith on the show, just maybe a month or two ago at this point. And she talked about her learning lessons of not establishing her mission and vision before she kept making leaps and decisions and strides in her own personal interior design business. And what's funny, Mike, is that she even said, I read it in your book, LuAnn, in the first chapter that I have to do this, but I was thinking, okay, whatever, I'll skip that part. Let me get to the good part. And so what I'm so thrilled is that you just shared with me your personal mission and vision for your company. So would you share that with everybody? Because I think it's going to inform every single aspect of our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So my goal basically is to help designers who are really looking to take their photos to the next level, and as well as elevate their online presence. And if they show print portfolios to their prospective clients, that's really what I focus on.
So what I love about this is, you see, we talk about Nancy Ganzikhofer was on the show, and she talked about your business in words, and it's an amazing exercise. And I'll look up the episode number and put it in the show notes. But what the whole point of her exercise is that she wants you to be able to, at a cocktail party, at a PTA event, at your kid's t-ball game, when somebody says, what do? You want to be able to come back to them and say what it is you do and why you do it. That makes an impression on somebody. And when you said that to me, Mike, that's what it did to me. And that's why I chose to start the show in that exact spot. Because if I'm an interior designer and I hear that, that's so much more meaningful to me than, oh, I shoot interiors, I'm a photographer. It's, you have a personal goal, a personal mission to help interior designers take their photos to the next level and to expand and improve their online presence and their portfolio through the work that you deliver to them. Like, that's like bing, 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 bing. Like, do you understand how powerful that statement is that you said?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things to me. Absolutely.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, Mike. And I congratulate you for, thinking about it and being able to come right out with, this is what you are here to do in your career and your mission in it. So now, knowing that you do that, now we're going to pick apart how you do it and how interior designers can most successfully work with photographers in order to be a partner in this, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So when we think about take their photos to the next level, tell us a little bit about what that means to you and how you want to explain this process to us.
Okay, good. That's a great question. So I think that you need to establish what level the designer is at. And basically you want to help them figure out what is the next level of clientele maybe they're looking to attract. Is it the luxury clients? Are they looking to design in a certain genre? And from there, we can basically help them produce photos that are in line with their branding and their vision, and really help them attract the clients that they're looking for.
So it seems a lot like the process that an interior designer might begin with the homeowner, or,
exactly. It's so similar. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's almost like that first consultation call that a designer might have with their client is the same thing that I'm going to do to them, to basically pull out pieces of information and things that I can use to now say, oh, okay, I see what you're looking for. Let me show you some examples of some work. Maybe you like cooler tones, warmer tones in your photos. Maybe you like shadows. Maybe you like bright, open, naturally lit photos. And now I know how to produce those for you.
And so the thing about this is I would imagine that when you work with a more seasoned designer, Mike, they're coming to this conversation with definite ideas. Probably they're saying, this is the kind of work that I have had in the past. These are some of the photographs from the work in the past. This is, like you said, I like things with this sort of lighting and shadow, blah, blah, blah. But what happens when the designer, maybe I would have to imagine, just like a homeowner could say, well, I could look at 10 Pinterest pictures and say what I like, but I don't know that I could describe it. And so is it the same sort of process that you say, well, then let's sit down and look at some things that you like, and then you might be able to identify the similarities, even though, the designer didn't realize that, oh, I keep picking the same sort of thing.
Exactly. It's some people have a hard time articulating what they like in a photo. I mean, sometimes I do as well. It's easier to look at something and really decide, oh, I like this about this photo, and then I might drill in and say, oh, why do you like that? What is in this photo that really draws your attention to it? And do you want to try to introduce that into your brand, into your look, into your style? And if that's what they want to do, then I have a clear vision of what to produce for them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would say, do you find, Mike, that most designers do come to you feeling like they know what they're looking for, or do you feel like there's typically the curve of learning about what they're looking for in themselves for their photography also?
Yes, I feel like it's not all the same. So I feel some designers are not sure. Just like maybe they went through a branding exercise and they weren't sure what they wanted or how they wanted to appear online. So it's almost going through a process of helping them, educating them to figure out what they like, and following through that way.
And how much does it? This is where I'm really going to show what I don't know, right? So when I think about photography and I just think about, the thousands of, pictures that I've looked in on designers' websites over the last 4.5 years, and of course, the thousands of photographs that I've seen on Instagram, there's no question that the overarching trend, and that's what I don't know. Is it a trend, or is it truly, LuAnn, you just didn't pay attention before this, but the whiteness of pictures, like of the taking a photograph and making things not just lighter and brighter, but much lighter and brighter. And I have had enough conversations to know that there are levels in the whiteness of the film, of the photograph, that do speak to a certain brand or not. But is it that all good photography does have some sort of lightness and whiterness to it, or is there no, LuAnn, you're just not realizing it's the trend now, and we might be like olive and harvest gold were in style in the 60s, and then mauve and gray were in style in the 80s. We're going to go to another moody look, and what I'm saying? I really don't know what I don't know there. Is good photography always brighter, or is it no, there are trends in photography as well?
There are definitely trends, and that is a trend, having exceptionally bright images, almost completely white windows, blown out, no texture, essentially.
Right.
And I would say that you should avoid trends. I tell my designers that you should be photographing your spaces the way that you want them to appear in your portfolio. Don't over style them because you think you might be trying to get into a specific publication. Do what is you. Present yourself the way you want to be shown. That's just my opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and because the thing for me is that, and that's why I asked the question, is because if And I've never asked a designer this question. It's funny, but in my mind, if I'm a consumer and I'm scrolling Instagram and I am attracted to a particular feed that is truly beautiful, there's no question, beautiful, but super whited out, like you said, blown out, and all of that stuff. You can't make my room like that. Like when I walk in my front door, it's not going to be whited out, and so therefore. I've never thought to ask a designer, isn't there a disconnect on the ultimate deliverable? Or is it that we just all, even consumers, all of us understand that that's a picture? And, to me, it's like, if you were like I always use the dating sites as an example. If you put a picture up there and you've touched it up so much that you don't have a single wrinkle, you don't have a single ounce of cellulite, not one little, scar, and then you walk in the door and you're all your real self, I'm like, sort of like, what the heck happened, right?
Well, the only thing with that is your client's never really going to probably step foot in your other client's home, so we can do a little bit of photography trickery there.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I don't know why I got down that tangent. Anyway, silly, but okay. So it is a trend now. In the 10 or plus years that you are doing interiors photography, has it always been this trend, or do you recall a time when it wasn't this trend? I don't know myself how long it's been going on.
No, I don't really recall how long it's been going on either, but yeah, definitely that's one thing you see a lot now. I feel like with maybe Instagram is the instigator there, where you're just seeing a lot of it. Because
on Instagram, you can artificially do it yourself. You don't even need to.
So, right. So filters are being applied to even exaggerate it even more.
Okay. So that was a little, tangent. But so now we get back to how do we come to this process? And you're saying that when you do your discovery call or meeting with a designer, it's assessing what level they're at, what types of projects they're doing, what types of clients they're working with. And I guess what you're saying is, are we great where we're at? And this is, who we want to continue to attract, or what you're saying is there can be a conversation that says, is there a desire to attract another type of client, whether it's moving laterally to a different, like maybe you're in residential and you want to move to boutique commercial, or you want to go vertically, you're in residential at a certain price point, luxury level, and you want to go to a next luxury level, that this can be somewhat achieved through the way you approach the photography of the project.
I think so. And I think it's just basically a component of the branding. I think once you establish what your brand is and what your style is and how the photography can help complement that, that's where you can kind of really dive in and talk about the technical things to get the photos where they need to be.
So this is a couple of times that you mentioned that the branding affects what you're going to do in the photography. Give me some examples of what do you mean by that. And so if you would if it's possible to do a mental exercise of maybe yourself visualizing maybe 2 or 3 different types of designers that you've worked with at any point in your career, and without saying who they are and what it is, but just to say, like, what, when I work with this particular firm X amount of years ago, this was the branding they were looking for, and this is how I brought it to life in photography as compared to this designer and the branding they were looking for. Because I'm not getting it as a tangible thing, how a photograph is going to support the branding.
Okay, yeah. So an example could be I have a client that does a lot of work down in the Jersey Shore. So, more beach style homes, massive amounts of sunlight coming in, shore or beachfront property. So their website and their brand has a very coastal feel to it. So, how do we support that with the photos? Well, we can't be showing super dark, moody images on their website. We have to shoot at the right time of day where the sun is streaming through this beautiful big open rear windows that they might have helped design in the home. And that's a component of the photography that helps support their look.
Okay, so that you brought it to something very tangible. So you're literally going to probably cancel a photo shoot that we woke up in New Jersey and it started pouring rain.
Yeah, or I wouldn't shoot a beachfront property in the afternoon because the sun's on the other side of the house now.
Right.
I would want to shoot it early, it could be 6 a.m. in the morning. We have to be there.
See, that's very interesting because, and maybe, all of our colleagues, Mike, that are photographers out there, Raquel and Sarah and Steve and David, and all of them are thinking, LuAnn, we all know that, right? But I didn't know it. And I don't know if a designer didn't know it, that, when you think about that, that makes perfect sense to me, that you would not, with a photographer like yourself that has a mission to support the designers in taking their photos to the next level and to support their online presence that reflects their brand, you would never look at somebody that does Jersey Shore beach coastal homes and say, yeah, I don't really show up till 10:30. You would be like, right. Okay, we're doing this at dawn. Let's do this.
Right, exactly.
Very interesting. That's interesting. I like that. And the thing is, what your point to this is that a designer that specializes in the Jersey Shore, any coastal area, might understand after the photos are taken, these don't seem sunny enough, these don't seem bright enough, but not necessarily understand beforehand, and that's going to require us getting here at 6 a.m., and that's where your expertise comes in.
Yeah, and something like that, too. It's, if we talk about a job like that specifically, the home has to be prepped the day before. Because once we get in, we can't start styling because the sun's going to start going up and out of the way. So it's a lot of preparation for projects like that. Interesting.
Can you think of another example of a designer that had a different kind of branding and how you informed that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have another client that uses a lot of deep color patterns, dark colors. So in that situation, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm not going to photograph everything white and bright. I'm going to use, maybe I might even have supplemental flashlight to help me accentuate the color and the fabrics that she designed. So it's kind of like an opposite approach.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Very good. And the thing is that, to your point of what kind of designer are they? Where are they at now? What are their current clients and what do they want to attract? Obviously, if we're really saying, hey, I want to do every $3 million house on the Jersey Shore, then our portfolio is going to look like we're going to do every $3 million house on the Jersey Shore, right?
Right.
That's a very clear line to attract the consumer that has their house at the Jersey Shore, right?
Exactly.
So That's awesome. Okay. And so then tell me a little bit more about, are there other things that I guess that we should think about in having the conversation with you as a photographer or being that partner in the photography? What else do you want to teach us about this?
I think that if a designer is looking to hire a photographer, they should be able to figure out or find out through conversation if they have all the techniques to achieve different looks. I think that if you're just a photographer who is a natural light shooter, you might be at a disadvantage. I think that having the ability to know how to use strobe lights and use natural light, use them together in some cases, you need to be able to adapt to whatever the client needs. So my portfolio has a mix of photos because it's not all, it's just a variety of different projects we shoot.
Okay. And when you think about helping an interior designer portray their brand through the photography, what is there? Say there's many designers that have a look. This is their look. It's like you said, beach coastal look. It's we got Sarah Brennan that does romantic transitional design. We have these things identified. But what about the designer that really does do every project completely different, that they are, because I've had conversations with some designers that are like, you want Mediterranean, Tuscany, I'm going to do that. You want beach coastal, I'm going to do that. Some designers are looking to design in a way that they love, and therefore it makes sense to consistently brand everything to that way, so it always attracts that type of design because that's their happy place. That's what they want to be. It's their prerogative. But the designer that really is all over and can go, I know any designer can go all over. I know that. But some prefer to stay in a lane. For the designer that her preferences or his preferences is to be out of a lane, how do you do that in photography for branding there? What is the branding there if the actual components are different?
Yeah, that's great. So if there's a designer that does have that full breadth of projects, then the best a photographer should do is at least tackle each one and have a consistent look throughout the whole set of photos from that same project. Don't try to marry the two projects together because, like you said, it might have a different design to it. So as long as you're being aware that if I'm shooting this one home and it has a specific Benjamin Moore paint color, that every photo that is taken is that color is going to reflect and be the same across the whole set.
Okay. So what you're saying is within a home, we've got every room designed differently, but how do we know, like, that's one example. Maybe the whole house is Revere pewter, but every room looks different. But what if it's not that? What if every room has a different color? Or what if it's this particular house was a family that liked bold color and bold prints and everything else, and then this particular family liked the farmhouse chic, everything modern chic, white and gray and brown? Like, how do you as a photographer counsel the designer to curate their portfolio to have some cohesiveness? Or do we just say no? Now our copy just says, hey, I'm not going to be cohesive. I am the person who's going to do whatever really speaks to you.
Right. If that's what they are looking to achieve, then if that's what their portfolio reflects, then the best a photographer can do is at least try to establish a cohesive set of images just from the one project.
Okay.
And not try to marry the two projects together.
Okay, understood. Okay, I get it. All right, that's got to be challenging, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are some of the other?
I feel like I don't really run across that too much where it's so different between project to project.
Okay. So even a designer that doesn't have a very called out specific look tends to have certain taste, maybe, that is always influencing even the personal taste of the homeowner.
I would say so, yes.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So what are some of the other challenges? Like, what are some of the things that you would say, you're at WindowWorks, you're at a lunch and learn, you've got 25 or 30 eager designers of different skill levels, different talent levels, and they're all looking at you and they're saying, Mike, help me. What are some of the things that you wish that designers knew that would, and because if knowing it will make their projects better?
So I think the first question I would ask is, what are the goals and aspirations of a potential client or designer, and try to figure out or help them establish where they're trying to be. And what I mean by that is, if we look at what your photography looks like now and maybe help them educate and figure out what are the things that they're not happy with or what they want to change or what it is that they want to bring out more, then we can go over maybe through showing them photos or having a conversation about what magazines they love and kind of peeling back the layers and trying to figure out what it is that we can help them to achieve with the next round of photography.
So, and I can understand there when you're saying to a good exercise, it sounds like you're saying is if you're unsure of what your goal is for the next level, or not unsure of what your goal is for the next, if you're trying to achieve the next level, it's not that you're unsure that you want to achieve it. It's just that maybe you're unsure on how to achieve it, right? Or
right.
if you're new to having your work photographed and you have really not qualified for yourself what you want it to look like, is an exercise is to go through the different styles in the magazine. So Design New Jersey is going to have one kind of look and feeling. Architectural Digest is going to have another. Domino is going to have another. Elle Decor is going to have another. Is that what we're saying is sort of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like something like Architectural Digest, they, if you look at that magazine specifically, they use a lot of people in their photographs. So maybe that's something that a designer wants to start introducing, is showing the homeowners using the spaces they design. And that is part of the process.
That's a funny thing that I never thought of. I never thought about that. See, that's why, you have to talk to people who do what they do, because I have looked at all of these magazines. Now, I'm not a studier of them, and I don't, you know what I mean? You know me, but I've seen my fair share of design magazines across my career, and you're so right that AD so much more often will have people in it. Why is it that people are so often not in the photography? I guess because then you have a personal reaction to the person, right?
Exactly. Usually the purpose of showing people is to show how the space was designed around living in the spaces. That's what these whole spaces are meant to be, is lived in. So they want to show how their design translates and works in real life,
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is, when I'm hearing it now, like Architectural Digest is mostly going to be well-known people that these homes have been designed for. So we don't mind seeing, Queen Elizabeth sitting in the picture or Beyonce sitting in the picture. But if we take that to Design New Jersey, who wants to see Mr. and Mrs. Smith? We want to see the pretty room. Like maybe we're going to have a bias against the people in the room, right?
Right. Well, that's the publication's point of view. So each publication is going to have their own point of view, but you as a designer can choose whether or not you want to have humanity in your photos or not. I have, my portfolio reflects some humanity. I have people mostly in commercial spaces, but it's definitely a ton of people using the space that was intended to be designed for.
Yes. I it's funny. I could see how a designer actually has to sit with that and make a decision on that. Do I want? That's an actual perfect example, Mike, is in that discovery is, as a rule, now we go back to the other example of all the spaces are designed differently. I've got Tuscan Mediterranean here. I've got coastal this, and I've got, farmhouse that. But my portfolio actually features all of my clients using the spaces. And that could be the unifying thing for the portfolio.
Absolutely. Yes.
Interesting. Well, and then we have, the pets and the dogs and the pictures of those things. Could be.
That's the best part. I love doing that. If I can get a pet in there.
It's so true, right? Oh my goodness. All right. So that's an interesting thing. And I know that when you're starting out anything, I know from my experience with Window Works, when I would work with people in helping them design their window treatments, one of the most glaring examples that always stands out in my mind is back in the 80s when balloon shades were all the rage. And you used to have a Taylor balloon, a cloud balloon, a Sherd balloon, a blah, 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 blah. And literally, you would sell a balloon shade to four out of five people all day, all week, all month for like 5 years. Okay, people would say, "I want a balloon shade," and then. But the thing that would happen is somebody would say, "Oh, I want a balloon shade," and I'd say, "Oh, that's terrific." And I'd open up my book and I'd show them a picture, and they'd be like, "Oh no, that's not a balloon shade. I don't want that. This is the one I want." I'd be like, "Okay, sweetie, it's the exact same thing. One's a plaid fabric, one's a cabbage rose, but they're the same thing." And so I can undersee how the learning curve for a newer design professional, you really do need to do the work of what kind of photography do I aspire to have, because it isn't all the same, even though it all looks beautiful, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yes. And that's the onus on the designer. Now, you're a helpful partner in that process, but ultimately the work is going to reflect the designer. So the designer needs to give it some careful consideration. And just like a homeowner can take 16 Pinterest pictures and show me 16 different balloon shades and think they're all different, the designer can come to you with, this is the kind of work I like, this is the kind of work I don't like.
Exactly. And, sometimes this happens on site too, where if a designer's not exactly sure what I'm trying to explain, I like to at least show them. I can quickly snap off a couple different photos with different lighting right on site and kind of go through that process right before we start shooting.
Very good. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's funny because I want to come back to my experience with you at LuAnn Live. What I learned is that photography isn't photography. And I think that it seems obvious. I think that it should have seemed obvious. I think that you should understand that there's levels of skill. But ultimately, I really had no idea at how the skill set of one photographer to take a picture of a human being in a candid moment can be so dramatically different from another photographer's ability to do that until you took all the pictures of LuAnn Live. And I had been, for the previous 3 years, having a photographer at almost every event that I had been running, our annual birthday parties, for the podcast and so forth. And what was interesting was I never not liked the other photography, but when I saw your photography, I was like, oh my goodness, this doesn't even seem like the same, like this is completely different. It was so noticeably different, Mike. And
what I always say is it's the same thing as pizza. Everyone thinks they have the best pizza until they have the best pizza.
Especially in New Jersey. You could do that trek all day long for weeks trying to find the best pizza. But it's true. And it was dramatic. And I will give Kim a shout out on this, Kim that works for me, Mike, because she consistently would not be happy with the photography. And I just thought she was, I don't know. I'm like, it's a picture of me standing with one of our guests, or, standing with one of the podcast guests. Like, what could be wrong about it? She would just be like, Lou, it's just so ordinary. And I'm like, well, sweetie, there's not much to work with. I'm an old lady. What do you want from me? You know what I'm saying? And I really didn't get it. I really didn't. And then when you sent us the pictures, and I will just say, I don't know, how long an Instagram feed goes back. Does it go back a year and a half? I don't even know, but yeah, it does. Okay. So then these pictures came out in my Instagram feed, would have been April, May, and June of 2019. And you took so many pictures, and, every week we were just sharing them, and it feels like you're in the room. It does. And you weren't able to say, hey, everybody get up at 6 a.m. Let's get the right lighting. Hey, everybody stand still. I didn't even know you were there. For 2.5 days, I don't know that I looked at your eyeballs 2 times. Like, you were just ninja photographer, just taking all the stuff, doing everything. And when I saw that body of work come out, and I have to say also, of course, my expectation wasn't super high because you're an interiors photographer. I said, you know what? This arrangement works for me. It works for Mike. Let's just do it, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that it was, because I do know enough to know that photographing humans and photographing spaces are, the photographers have told me, different skill sets. But you killed it. You knocked it out of the park.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah. We were just amazed and
that was
thrilled.
Fun. I had such a good time there too.
That was a great weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. But anyway, so so the point to sharing all that is that you also had shared with me before that that's important for an interior designer to understand. Have they experienced good photography? They might be working with a photographer. They might be having this relationship. And, like you said, did you have the best pizza yet? right? To just,
Right.
if you're really not looking at it, I think for me, what I would say now is I used to look at dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures that were forwarded to me in Dropboxes after events. And I'd be like, I wasn't like, no. I was like, But when I looked at the pictures that you sent us, I was like, like you just caught people's eyes and the spark and the lighting was right. And it was just like, it was like you could feel the room. And that was different. And so I guess that's one thing we should say to designers. If you're looking at your photography and you're not sure and you're not getting a visceral reaction and you're not feeling like super, super proud of it, it might be the photographer, correct?
That's definitely correct. Yep.
That's interesting. See, for me, I was like, well, it's the subject. I was like, well, Kim, come on. So it's not. It's to keep looking for a photographer that whatever level interior designer you're at, there is a way to take a picture, to take a photograph that creates a reaction in the finished product. Am I right?
Definitely. You should be able to take any space and make it look gorgeous through photography.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting, Mike. Very interesting. So tell us, so you do architectural photography as well. Is that part of your professional portfolio, Mike, or is that just for your own, feeding your creative soul? Because I mean, outside exteriors. I often see you on your Instagram feed, the big landmarks around New York City and street scenes and different things like that.
Yeah, so it's a mix. Some of it's commissioned work and some of it's just my own personal work. Some of the bigger known architects in New York City are working with, the larger photography firms. So those I just go out and shoot for fun. But I have a handful of architectural firms and commercial interior design firms that I work with all throughout the country, actually.
Interesting. So by saying that, do you mean that you often will be flown to location throughout the country, or there are firms throughout the country that have projects in the New York and New Jersey area?
Both, yeah. Both. Sometimes I don't travel often, especially now, but most of the work is in tri-state area.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and so is there anything, I know that you're very conscious of the tying of the brand. And you've mentioned to me a couple of times in our conversations at WindowWorks and off air and so forth about you particularly like the shows by Nicole Heimer and Kay Whitaker, where they're talking about helping a designer come to their brand and to express their brand in their website, in their email marketing and everything. Is there anything else regarding that conversation towards photography that you want to include here? Because I know that that's so important for you.
Yeah, I just think that photography should be factored in when someone like Nicole Heimer is going over a branding exercise with her clients. Because that's a big component. Not only the messaging and the look and the color palette of the brand, it's the photography, which is the most forward-facing part. It's the first thing that a client's going to see when they look you up. So I think that it should be heavily considered when you're rebranding your business.
I hear what you're saying. So what you're saying is, a good website developer will look at the portfolio that they're going to place in the website to see if it informs some sort of effect on the overall branding, rather than just having placeholders. Well, okay, photographs of portfolio will go here, build the whole website, and just plug them in after the fact.
No, that's not where I was going exactly. I think what I was trying to get at was basically when you have a prospective client that's searching for you on Google or whatever it might be, and they pull up your website, the first thing they see is your photography of your work. And that is, that to me could trigger them going to your contact page, filling out a form to even to reach out to you. So I just feel like the photos are the most forward-facing part of your brand.
Okay, understood. I get it. So just, the eye candy, make sure they're not going
Exactly.
searching the website for the eye candy, that it hits right
Right.
there.
Exactly.
Okay, okay. Like I know Nicole will call it the hero picture, right? Isn't it
Exactly.
right? The
Right.
hero
Yep.
picture, right? Yes. Very good. Any advice to baby designers, rising designers that maybe they don't have? One of the things that I always hear is, I don't have lots of projects to photograph to put on my website, so that when the client does come and gets to my website, I don't have a lot. How do you work with a newer designer that is it the type of thing where we've heard before, take the room shot, take 16,000 little vignette shots, like make the most out of what you have, or do you have other
Yeah,
advice?
I think that's a good approach. I think you can, through really nicely styled vignettes, you can capture much more. You can capture 6, 7 photos of a space and make it appear like it's a more than it was when, if it was a smaller project, basically.
Okay. I love it. I love it. It's so good. And the thing is, too, ultimately, you have to have a good rapport with your photographer as well, right? You're going to work very closely together, really trying to achieve something that so clearly is going to represent the designer's work and their brand and their expertise. So there has to be the willingness between the two of you to not worry about, like, I just don't like it that way, Mike, do it this way, right? Like, you can't get crazy about things like that. You have to be able to be open and be partners.
Definitely. You're both creatives. It's a collaboration between the two. It's a partnership. So, that's what's great about it. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, I have to tell you, I look, I think people should go to your website to see your work. It's absolutely gorgeous, and you have it. What comes through, Mike, is your mission. It comes through when you work with you. That's what I want to say to you, too. Having worked with you personally, it is so clear that you are there in service to your client. When you were there for me at LuAnn Live, it was 100% clear that it was you were just there to make the best of it and deliver the best you could to me without even me requiring to have the clear conversation with you about it. That was your goal was my goal. That's exactly what I want to say. Your goal was my goal, and it was noticeable, and you achieved it. So you're outstanding. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No. So if you're in the New York, New Jersey area, I highly recommend Mike to work with him. And of course, as he says, he travels. But thank you for sharing your insights on this today, Mike. It's photography is very personal, and it really does put our face out there to the world. So it's an important component not to underestimate and not to overlook. So thanks for so much for sharing us your expertise on it.
Thank you so much, LuAnn. Really, it was a great time.
Mike's terrific, isn't he? I really love working with him for a ton of reasons, none of the least which include his commitment to providing an awesome customer experience. His passion for what he does, as well as his knowledgeable professionalism, are always apparent throughout the work process with him. I always love working with a pro who knows their job and does it with pride. This is Mike. You can rely on him. Now, I want to recap a few of the points that Mike was teaching us today and talking about. The first is that he strives himself to and stresses for you to capture photos that when they are seen on your website, prospective clients feel like they are in the space that you designed, right? His belief is that photos are experiential to the design, and I think that's a great way to look at it. The second thing is that the images in your portfolio should consistently represent your style and brand. He talked about this a lot today, and I know that he's committed to it, and I hope that you took his lesson to heart. We take a lot of time on all the other components of our website, our letterhead, our fonts, our everything else, to make sure that they represent us in a way that is authentic and that we have pride about. But this has to transfer to your interiors photography as well. All right. And then he also says, he wants you to know that when you are working with the right photographer, you should expect that the photographer will help you develop this consistent, cohesive, and authentic feeling across your portfolio, right? So you might be struggling with how to do this, but an experienced photographer should have this top of mind also and be able and willing to help you talk through it so that it's not just each job is its own entity, that we're giving thought always to the presentation as a whole, all of your work on your website, right? And of course, quality photography in your design is critical for marketing and cultivating new clients. I mean, that goes without saying, but worth repeating, right? And then you should always expect that an experienced photographer to be able to adapt to your style, Mike says, right? He discussed that this might be through the use of supplemental lighting. It might be through having to get up at the crack of dawn and being at the Jersey Shore at 6 a.m., like he said. It might be replicating sunlight with strobe lights, or it might have to, the photographer might have to subtract light. Whatever it is, Mike said that the photographer should be able to deliver the look that you want for your photos and for your brand, okay? So I hope that you found his tips helpful, and I want to tell you that you can get, if you go over my show notes, there is more information on this topic. First of all, there's a link to a blog post that Mike wrote that you might find helpful, how to bring your interior design style to life through photography. So I suggest that you check that out. And of course, I always put the links. If I mention a previous episode within the show, you can take it to the bank that whether I announce it here at the end of the show or not, that show link will be in the show notes. So just scroll down on your iPhone or whatever you're using, and you will see it. Or if you're on my website at LuAnnNiagara.com on the podcast tab, the links will be there as well. So in particular, this episode, I think good companion episodes would be Nicole Heimer episode and Kay Whitaker's episode on branding. Okay, because there was a lot of discussion today about branding, so I would head over to those episodes. And of course, we've had many other experienced photographers on the show over the last several years, and I've included links to all of their episodes in the show notes as well. All right, before I go, I'm going to remind you about my latest course, Buy Wholesale for Profit, led by Tracy Connell. This is a 6-week course taught live via Zoom, and it comes with a private Facebook group for additional questions, support, and collaboration. If you are finally ready to start making money on furniture, but you aren't sure where to start, how to set up accounts, you aren't clear on the various tiers for buying all the way from retail to stocking dealer, you're not sure how to charge, what margins you should make, maybe you're not sure why you should care about any of this, okay? I'm here to tell you that if you do learn this and you do learn to care about it, you will make more money for your interior design firm. And I'm pretty sure that's the whole point, right? So we start this course July 22nd, 2020, all right? Go to buywholesaleforprofit.com. All right. And if you go to the website, you'll see all the other deliverables that we're going to give to you in this course. And it's going to be well worthwhile. We've got a good chunk of designers already signed up. And of course, we have room for more. So I'd love to see you there. All righty. That is it for today. Be good. Be well. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNiagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.